Hello and welcome back, and welcome to our video on inventory parent and child relationships. Another way to say it is like kit parts. Basically a way to take parts, separate inventory items, and kind of group them together so that they're easy to use, and so they make sense in a meaningful way. And so let's look what we've got here. Again, in this video in this demo site, we are doing a tire shop. And so over in our inventory items, you can see we've got some tires, a valve stem, and some tires, some additional tires. And so what we want to do is, in this scenario, we know that every tire is going to have a valve stem, right? And so what we want to do is we're trying to make it so it's easy for our guy. So instead of saying, hey, when he's clocking out of that task, instead of saying, hey, how many tires did you do? Hey, how many valve stems did you do? We just want to say, hey, you know what? I know if you put a tire on, you put a valve stem on, because if you didn't, odds are you didn't put air in the tire and the customer didn't drive away. And so we know that we went through a valve stem. And so if we just come over here and click on this inventory item, on this link right here, it's going to pull it up, and we're going to see these columns, parent items and child items. Okay? And if we look, we've got the parent items of this, which corresponds here, and this, which corresponds here. If I come over and look at one of these, you can see that I have a child item of a valve stem. So let's look at, I've just added a tire here that doesn't have any, and so let's look at this. And so I'm looking at a tire, and so what I want to do is I want to be able to say every time that I bring in a tire, or every time that my guy says that he's put a tire on, I want him to say also and assume that he's put on this valve stem, and I want it to adjust my inventory and also adjust my costs appropriately. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here, and since the tire is what we're counting, I put on 4 tires, that's the parent item, which means that for the tire we want to go ahead and put a child item on. We want to say, hey, if this thing's coming, then this other thing is coming along with it. Just like your child, if the parent's coming, the child's coming. And so what we're going to do over here is we're going to go to a child item, and there's an add button. Click add, and we're going to find that valve stem, and we're going to click done. And so what we can do now is we can input the number we want. Now if I put 4 in here, that means that if I put 4 tires on, that means that I'm now going to issue 16 valve stems. Obviously that's not right. We have 1 tire, we have 1 valve stem, so we're going to put that as 1. Over here we have this button called auto issue. And now what that does is that allows us to do one or the other. We have these 2 options. If it's unchecked like this, and we are making a quote or we are making a job, and we bring in this tire, if auto issue is not checked, what will happen is it will bring over the valve stem as well. So if we add the tire, it will automatically add the valve stem. And when your guys are clocked into that task, and when they go to end that task and it asks how many tires, it's also going to ask how many valve stems. Okay? So regardless of the fact that you put a 1 in there, it's going to ask them how many valve stems. Now, if I check this box, what's going to happen, it's going to look exactly the same for you when you're making the job or the quote. If you bring over the tire, it's going to bring over the valve stem. But when your employee goes to end that task, and the system's going to ask and say, how many tires did you use? And the employee's going to say 4, and it's not going to ask them how many valve stems. It's just going to automatically take out 1 valve stem for each tire that they've reported using. So if they say I used 4 tires, it's going to say they used 4 valve stems. Now the reason why, there's times where you're going to want to auto issue, and there's times when you're not going to want to auto issue. So let's say, I don't know anything about valve stems or how to put them in, so this is just hypothetical. So if I know that valve stems are difficult to put in, so let's say that I've got a 75% chance of success of getting a valve stem in. So that means that out of every valve stem I try to put into a wheel. I only 3 of them work. I always, the 4th one always gets buggered up. And so what that means is that I don't really have a 1-to-1. I may have there's some failure rate at which I use more than one of these for each tire. So auto issuing would not be a good thing to do, because I want to know how many valve stems it took. So if the guy puts on 4 tires and he went through 10 valve stems just to get those 4 tires out the door, well, that's something that would be useful to know. I want to know that. I want to, then I can start to look at, different tire manufacturers. I can start to look at, why. I can start to try to figure out what is causing this. I can look for trends. Is it a certain employee that's having struggles? Is it a certain customer, a certain tire, a certain, do we just know that there's certain wheels and tires that just, these valve stems are just hard to get on? And so that's one of the reasons why you would not want to auto issue. Now let's say that it's not like that at all. I have no idea. But now let's say that, you never have a failure. If you say I used a valve stem, it went right in perfectly with no problems. Well, in that case, auto issuing that would be a perfect example right there, where you would click that, it would auto issue, and it would make it so that it's going to save your employee time when he goes to end. So right now we're talking about valve stems. But let's say, for instance, so let's close this and let's give another example. Let's say that I've got some sort of kit. So I'm going to make a new item here. I'm just going to call it kit 1. And let's say that this thing is, we're going to add a new category here. We're going to call the category kit. I'm going to put that at 0. And I'm going to just say box. Alright, so now I've got this kit, okay? So let's say that I go with this kit and I come here and I want to add a bunch of items. It's not, right now, about 1 or 2 items saying, oh, I did a tire, I did 4 tires, I did 4 valve stems. Not that big of a deal. But let's say we go through here and just for the sake of argument, let's say that we go through and we're going to add all of these items here. And so in this particular kit, let's say I use 5 of these, I use 4 of these, I use 2 of these, and I use 10 of these. I auto issue those, all that stuff. So if you've got, so say like, there's a lot of different companies like, like machine shops and stuff like that, or other specialty shops where, there's somebody kind of making these kits, kind of putting these kits together and saying, okay, this is this is the masking, this is the plug, this is that, and they've pre-made these kits, and you just go grab this kit and you go out there and you use that kit, and they're consumable, so once you've used that kit, it's used up and it's garbage, and you consume that kit. And so being able to nest these products and nest these things makes it really easy. And what's nice is we've put no limit really on how much you can kit. So if we come here and say, so if we've looked here, we know that we've added valve stems to this particular item right here. So we know that every time I bring over 1 of these, it's also bringing over 1 valve stem. And if I look at this kit, I'm bringing over 1 of these tires, which means it's also going to auto issue and bring in that that item that was the child of that item. So you can see with just a few click buttons, you're able to really quickly and easily kind of group these things together, make it easy to manage, make it easy for your employees to be able to quickly apply this stuff onto a job, so you can capture that cost, you can keep track of your inventory.